5-tip unravels multi-state home repair fraud. Aurora Kahlo, a seemingly insignificant $5 tip offered by a conscientious homeowner in Aurora, has unraveled an elaborate home repair fraud scheme, leading to a multi-state investigation and the arrests of several individuals involved in a sophisticated network accused of defrauding hundreds of unsuspecting customers out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The intricate scam, which preyed on consumers' trust and technical ignorance, leveraged inflated charges, phantom parts, and unnecessary services, all meticulously hidden until one small act of generosity brought it crashing down. Sarah Jenkins, 48, a meticulous accountant and homeowner, had called RapidFix Home Services in early May after her air conditioning unit began emitting a concerning grinding noise. What began as a routine service call quickly escalated into a complex criminal investigation after Jenkins' decision to add a modest gratuity to her payment exposed a carefully constructed system of deception that had flourished for years across multiple states. The day of the repair, a technician identified as Mark Rodriguez arrived at Jenkins' suburban home, presenting himself professionally. He performed an initial inspection, spent about an hour working on the outdoor AC unit, and then presented Jenkins with a tablet for payment. The quoted cost for the repair, which included a new compressor relay switch and labor, was $685. Jenkins, satisfied with the seemingly prompt service and Rodriguez's polite demeanor, decided to add a $5 tip. "I always try to tip service people, especially when they come out on short notice," Jenkins recounted in an interview with the Associated Press. "It was just a small gesture of appreciation. I entered the $5 and the total on the tablet updated to $690. Simple enough." However, it was the subsequent printed receipt, which Rodriguez handed her moments later, that first sparked Jenkins' unease. While the final amount indeed reflected $690, the breakdown of charges was subtly different. The line item for the compressor relay switch, initially listed at $280 on the tablet's initial display, was now printed as $220, with an additional diagnostic fee adjustment of $60 appearing on a separate line. The $5 tip was correctly applied, but the underlying arithmetic felt off. "It was just a gut feeling, a tiny red flag," Jenkins explained. "As an accountant, I deal with numbers all day. The initial quote for the part, the final printed charge for it, and then this seemingly random diagnostic fee adjustment that made the total add up perfectly. It felt like a magician's trick, distracting from something else." Driven by her professional instinct, Jenkins decided to investigate. Her first step was to research the cost of a compressor relay switch for her specific AC model. A quick online search revealed that the part typically retailed for $30 to $60, even from specialized HVAC supply stores, not the $220 or $280 she was charged. Furthermore, the diagnostic fee adjustment seemed arbitrary and lacked any clear explanation on the receipt. "I called RapidFix the next day, asking for a detailed breakdown and clarification on the pricing," Jenkins said. "The customer service representative was polite but evasive. They just kept reiterating that the total was correct and that pricing varied. They couldn't explain the discrepancy in the part cost or the adjustment." Unsatisfied, Jenkins decided to take a deeper dive. She compared her receipt with online forums discussing common home repair scams. What she uncovered was a widespread pattern of deceit. The compressor relay switch was a common target for overcharging due to its critical function and relatively low actual cost. The diagnostic fee adjustment was a clever tactic, she realized, to absorb the overcharge for the part without making the part's listed price too egregious, or perhaps to account for a hidden fee that only appeared when a tip was added, throwing off the system's intended camouflage. Jenkins meticulously documented her findings, creating a detailed spreadsheet comparing her charges to market rates and highlighting the inconsistencies. She also cross-referenced RapidFix Home Services online reviews, noticing a recurring theme of customers complaining about unexpectedly high bills, vague explanations, and repairs that didn't last. Many reviews mentioned similar adjustments or inflated parts costs. Armed with her evidence, Jenkins reported the incident to the Colorado Attorney General's Office Consumer Protection Section and the local Aurora Police Department. Initially, her claim seemed like a typical consumer dispute. However, Jenkins' meticulous documentation and her insistence that the anomaly was triggered by the tip piqued the interest of investigators. Detective Sergeant Michael Chen, head of the Economic Crimes Unit for the Aurora Police Department, explained the significance of Jenkins' discovery. Scams like this thrive on small, incremental overcharges that most people won't notice or bother to challenge, Chen stated. Mrs. Jenkins' tip, by subtly altering the transaction total, appears to have forced their system to generate a receipt that revealed their sleight of hand. It was like pulling a loose thread that unraveled the entire garment. The investigation quickly broadened. Authorities discovered that RapidFix Home Services, while operating under a seemingly legitimate corporate structure, was a front for a sophisticated fraud ring. The company, headquartered in a nondescript office building in Denver, had satellite operations and a network of technicians working across Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Their business model was simple: recruit technicians, provide minimal training, and incentivize them to maximize profits through deceptive billing practices. We found that technicians were instructed to identify common, easily replaceable parts, inflate their costs by 500 to 1,000%, and then add a series of arbitrary fees or adjustments to obscure the actual overcharge, said Special Agent Elena Ramirez of the FBI's Denver field office. The diagnostic fee adjustment was just one of many codes used to pad bills. They also used hazardous waste disposal fees for minor components, expedited service charges that weren't expedited, and system recalibration fees for basic adjustments. The investigation revealed that technicians like Mark Rodriguez were not just rogue actors, but were part of a systemic scheme. They were provided with specialized payment tablets that allowed for real-time manipulation of line items and charges, often showing a slightly different breakdown to the customer on the screen versus what was printed on the final receipt. The $5 tip, according to investigators, might have triggered a specific coding pathway in the payment software, forcing a recalculation that exposed the hidden adjustment. Or perhaps Rodriguez, caught off guard by the unexpected tip, manually entered it in a way that bypassed the usual obfuscation protocols. The technicians were under immense pressure to meet daily quotas for inflated charges, Ramirez explained. They were trained to upsell unnecessary repairs, claim part faulty when they weren't, and even install used or refurbished parts while charging for new ones. The scope of the alleged fraud was staggering. Over the past 3 years, RapidFix Home Services had processed over 15,000 service calls across the 3 states. Preliminary estimates suggest that the company had bilked consumers out of at least $1.2 million through its fraudulent practices. Many victims were elderly individuals, single parents, or those with limited technical knowledge, making them particularly vulnerable to the deceptive tactics. One such victim, 78-year-old Agnes Miller of Scottsdale, Arizona, recounted her experience. "My water heater stopped working last winter. A RapidFix technician came out and told me I needed a whole new heating element and some kind of anode rod replacement for $950. He said if I didn't get it, the whole thing would explode," Miller said, visibly shaken. "I paid it because I was scared. My son later looked at the bill and realized the parts would have cost maybe $150, and he could have replaced them himself in an hour." The investigation culminated in a series of coordinated raids last week across Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Authorities arrested 6 individuals, including Mark Rodriguez, 34, and 2 high-ranking managers within RapidFix Home Services: David Sterling, 52, identified as the operations director, and Elena Vasquez, 49, the lead financial officer. Warrants have been issued for the company's alleged founder and CEO, Richard Thorne, 61, who was believed to have fled the country. All arrested individuals face multiple charges, including felony fraud, ground larceny, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. If convicted, they could face substantial prison sentences and hefty fines. The assets of RapidFix Home Services have been frozen, and authorities are working to identify and notify additional victims with the hope of facilitating restitution through a victims' compensation fund. Consumer protection advocates have lauded Jenkins's vigilance. This case is a powerful reminder that consumers are the first line of defense against fraud, Maria Lopez, Executive Director of Consumer Watchdog Alliance, a national advocacy group. Most people wouldn't question a $5 discrepancy, but Mrs. Jenkins' attention to detail, combined with her courage to report it, saved countless others from being victimized. It underscores the importance of scrutinizing every line item on a bill, no matter how small. Lopez advises consumers to always get multiple quotes for home repairs, research typical costs of parts and labor, ask for detailed written estimates before work begins, and never feel pressured into immediate decisions. If something feels off, it probably is, she added. Don't hesitate to question, research, and report. For Sarah Jenkins, the ordeal has been both stressful and vindicating. I never imagined a $5 tip could lead to something this big, she reflected. I just wanted to understand why my bill looked funny. Knowing that it helped expose a network that was preying on so many people, especially the vulnerable, makes all the effort worthwhile. It's a reminder that even the smallest details can hide the biggest